Hi there. I wanted to talk today about some deficiencies we tend to experience as we move into older adulthood that are particularly important to keep an eye out for, and things that we may have to kind of shift our diet and our supplementation around to address. The first one is B vitamins. Around age 50, our stomachs typically start making less gastric acid, which basically decreases our ability to absorb vitamin B12. And so this makes it very important around this time to add more B12 into our diet. We know B12 is so vital for blood flow and nerve health. And a lot of cereals are fortified with B12 for that reason. And we get it in a lot of meat products, particularly, weirdly enough, liver, sardines, and clams are really, really good sources of B12. For a lot of people who don't have a lot of animal protein in their diet, B12 supplementation is important, particularly in a vegan diet where you get almost no B12. Supplementation is really important. So after the age of 50, it becomes even more vital because you're simply not able to absorb it as well. So you need to take in higher and higher amounts. So important thing to consider. Another one is calcium, which is a very common deficit that we see in older adults. Some research is suggesting that calcium intake in our early ages is the best thing we can do to lower the risk of osteoporosis. But even with that being the case, we want to keep up our calcium intake into our senior years to keep our bone health as optimal as we possibly can. So make sure that you are including calcium-rich foods in your diet. A third one that I wanted to highlight, which is usually a surprise to people, is decreased thirst, which I think is a strange one for some people. The sensation of being thirsty, that feeling of being thirsty, tends to decline significantly as we age. And it may not seem like such a big deal, but if you're not actively drinking enough and not staying hydrated, there are all sorts of problems you can experience, from impacts on blood pressure to digestion to kidney stones, right, to all of these other things, even increased appetite in response. So hydration is key. Your immune system is another thing that's dramatically impacted by dehydration. So if you want to stay strong and healthy and ward away illness, hydration is kind of the key to doing that. And because your thirst levels aren't going to be where they are, it means you can't wait until you're thirsty to drink. So you really need to be focusing on your hydration levels all day, every day. These are just some key things to pay attention to as you get older, because they do make a huge difference in your health and wellness in your later years. So focus on all three of those, and I will see you later. Bye.